Well, good morning again. Welcome back, or welcome to Wellesley College. If it's your first visit or one of many, we're delighted to have you here. My name is Sarah Jane Gunter. I'm a proud member of the incredible class of 1992. I see some of my classmates out there. It's nice to see you back on campus. And I'm also privileged to serve as the chair of the Wellesley College Board of Trustees. President Johnson, fellow board members, faculty, students, staff, alumni, families, distinguished guests, I'm thrilled to be here with you all as we celebrate Wellesley's sesquicentennial, and in particular to welcome you to this morning's panel, Wellesley at 150, Women Leading Change. This is such an exciting time for the college, and this community means the world to me, so this is a special moment. Before I go on to tell you a little bit about our speakers and today's panel, I would like to congratulate President Johnson and her team for creating this truly remarkable weekend in honor of Wellesley's legacy of 150 years of educating women who make a difference. If you were able to attend President Johnson's State of the College address earlier this morning, I hope you're as excited as I am about how Wellesley is meeting this moment and how the college is poised to embrace a bright and purpose-driven future. I am pleased to introduce our panelists, who also happen to be our 2025 Alumnae Achievement Award recipients: Karen Grigsby Bates, class of 73, Jocelyn Benson, class of 99, and Sue Wagner, class of 82. They'll come out in a moment. If you were at yesterday's Alumnae Achievement Award ceremony, you know how fortunate we are to have these three extraordinary women with us today. They each embody the height of excellence and accomplishment in their fields, and they live and breathe our motto, not to be ministered unto, but to minister. They are each pioneers who have made their mark and opened the doors for others to follow. They are here to speak about the critical need for women to lead change in the face of threats to the media, free expression, and even the fabric of our democracy. And they will help shed light on the role women can play across industries as technology like AI raises as many questions as it answers. More broadly, I hope, they will share their experience and wisdom as we discuss the ways that women at all levels can make change, call communities together in action, and help solve the problems that all too often feel unsolvable. If we were to go deep into their bios, we'd be here all morning, so I'll try to keep these short. Karen Grigsby Bates, class of 73, is an award-winning journalist, NPR correspondent, and senior correspondent for Code Switch, a podcast that reports on race and ethnicity, and one of the best podcasts out there, named Show of the Year by Apple, and one of Time Magazine's best podcasts of all time. Her work often illuminates the stories of those who society leaves behind, as well as those who are fighting for change. There are too many to list, but I want to highlight her work in 2020 when she spoke on NPR about why COVID patients of color became sicker and were more likely to die from the virus, and her moving Wellesley magazine feature on Zoe Mungeon, class of 11, who died of COVID after twice being turned away from a hospital that dismissed her illness as asthma and a panic attack. Among her awards, Karen's mentorship and trailblazing reporting on race earned her the 2023 Gwen Eiffel Award from the International Women's Media Foundation. Karen is one of our most important voices and a journalist of immense talent and deep empathy. Jocelyn Benson, class of 99, is Michigan's Secretary of State, a fierce champion of voter rights who won't back down, and is currently running for governor. Jocelyn catapulted into the national spotlight after the 2020 election, when, despite death threats and intimidation, she defended Michigan's election process. In 2023, President Joe Biden awarded Jocelyn a Presidential Citizens Medal, the nation's second highest civilian award, for defending democracy. And she received the Brennan Center for Justice's Legacy Award that same year for serving as a model for the nation by safeguarding every vote and every voice in her fierce protection of elections. The John F. Kennedy Presidential Library Foundation also honored her with its 2022 Profiles in Courage Award. Jocelyn earned a master's in sociology as a Marshall Scholar at the University of Oxford, then received her JD from Harvard Law School. In 2005, she joined the faculty of Wayne State University Law School, and just 7 years later, became dean at age 36, the youngest woman ever to lead a top 100 accredited American law school. Jocelyn is the definition of courage and a leader with a history of standing up for our most precious rights. Sue Wagner, class of '82, is a true business innovator, a philanthropic leader, and a champion of women's education. In 1988, Sue co-founded the investment firm BlackRock, and over the course of nearly 25 years, her leadership helped drive BlackRock's success. Today, it is one of the largest investment management firms in the world. Sue's mentorship efforts have changed the lives of many, including through her role as executive sponsor of BlackRock's Women's Initiative Network. Sue stepped down as vice chairman of BlackRock in 2012 and joined the company's board of directors. She also serves on the boards of companies including Apple, where she's the second woman to be named director in its history, Samsara, and Color Health. She served Wellesley's board with distinction for 12 years. Thanks to Sue's generosity, including the largest gift ever awarded to Wellesley, the college completely restructured career education, and she inspired Wellesley to create the Wagner Centers, which focus on issues affecting women around the world. Sue is one of the most successful leaders in her generation and mentored generations of women, including Wellesley students, and a transformative force for this college. And finally, it's my pleasure to introduce our moderator for today, Tatiana Ivy Moise, class of 2021. Tatiana served as the Young Alumni Trustee from 2022 to 25. She is Digital Content Manager at When We All Vote, a leading nonpartisan initiative created by Michelle Obama that aims to shift the culture around voting and increase voting participation by helping to close the race and age gap. I know Tatiana from our work on the board together. We very much miss her and know we are in good hands. And so today, without any further delay, again, thank you so much for being here, and let's welcome our speakers.
Good morning, everyone. Can you all hear me? Yes? A little more energy on a Saturday morning. It's sunny outside. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here to celebrate Wellesley's 150th. I am absolutely honored to share the stage with these lovely women who need no introductions, but keep getting introductions because, hello, so accomplished. Again, I really am so excited to have this conversation with you all about leadership and your vision for our world and your fields and the future of Wellesley. So without further ado, I do want to start by getting a little acclimated, if you will. Some hopefully easier questions to start with. What motivated you all to enter your fields? And we'll start with Jocelyn. What motivated you to enter a career in public service?
Well, Wellesley.
Yeah.
Obviously, Wellesley was what taught me that it was possible, because there were other women. I mean, Hillary Clinton was the first lady at the time. Madeleine Albright was the Secretary of State at the time I was here. So it was very real. The path seemed possible. But then related to that, my parents were special education teachers, and so they really instilled in with me a recognition that we all have a responsibility to make sure everyone has a seat at the table. And we're all better when we do that, when we embrace that responsibility. And then it was really moving to Alabama after Wellesley and being inspired by those who came before us in Selma to march across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, enact a Voting Rights Act to protect our constitutional values, our democracy, that made me want to that connect the desire to serve with protecting everyone's access to their voice and their vote. But among all that, what I remember most, one of the things I remember most learning at Wellesley or becoming at Wellesley was recognizing that the path was never about a title or a position. It was about the work. It was about the issue. And what Wellesley and being here really inspired me to do and instilled in me the importance of doing is identify the impact you want to have with your life. And then, find a place to stand from there. but not to chase a title or a position, but to chase impact, to chase service. And that really has driven me throughout my whole career.
Absolutely, and chasing service is what we're all about here at Wellesley. So that ties it all together. How about you, Karen? How did you decide to become a journalist?
I think it was probably a series of happenstance realizations. I asked a lot of questions, as some of my childhood friends once pointed out. You know, if a dog went against a hydrant, you'd ask it, why? What are you feeling about? So it was kind of pointing me in that direction anyway. And also, I felt as if I was living on a different level as a lot of the rest of the world, because I'd see things reflected to me in the media that did not jibe with my lived experience. And I thought, why aren't they writing about this? Why aren't they talking about this? Well, you know, mainstream media at that point wasn't all that interested, but I was interested. And so I figured if somebody was going to do it, then I should be one of the people who was reporting on these underreported communities, on these narratives that I was seeing but not seeing reflected back in major media to the rest of the country, so other people understood that, yes, this is what's going on. So I think that's really why.
Absolutely, and we will get into that a little bit later as well. But first, we'll go all the way over to Sue. Hello. When you think about your career and field in business, what is one thing that you translate from your English major into this career? We all want to know.
Only one? Look, I actually don't think it's so much about the English major per se. I think it's the fundamentals that apply. So, you know, I know feels like it's overplayed, but I mean, I really do think it's critical thinking and communication skills. It's creativity and curiosity and empathy. And I think that would be the same if you're a philosophy major or a history major, political science, or STEM, or sociology, for example. I just think it's a strong reason why I'm such a proponent for liberal arts and finding something that you love to study while you're here and then really diving deeply. The subject matter itself doesn't have to translate. I mean, it helped that I knew how to write well, but it's really the discipline and the core skills that guide you along the way.
Yeah, a liberal arts degree, there are memes about it if you've seen them online, right? Like, what makes a liberal arts student or graduate? And it's really a lot of funny jokes, but also, to be real, like the breadth of knowledge, in addition to the depth of knowledge in your specific fields that you end up going into. But I want to talk to you all about, and feel free to answer in any order as you're inspired, but looking at your career and thinking about your journeys to get here to this stage, being honored this weekend, what do you think has made you successful, or really more so a good leader as you define leadership?
Perseverance, and in that way, endurance, being relentless. I actually also became a runner here at Wellesley and running around Lake Waban. I now run marathons. I'm running New York Marathon next weekend.
Wow.
But that was a physical way to learn endurance as well. But certainly never giving up and never allowing other entities or people or powerful presidents to define you or what you can accomplish.
I actually would say caring. You know, caring about people, caring about the work, caring about execution, and caring about excellence.
Probably developing the ability to listen well and observe acutely. Because people will tell you things, but they don't always tell you things. But you can suss it out at some point if you develop those skills. And so I think I've been able to do that, and it stood me in good stead as a journalist.
Reading between the lines. I hope we're all taking notes. I have a pen. Does everybody have a pen? Some notebook paper. We're in class on a Saturday. Okay. Now I want to shift us into talking about change. and challenge, which we are all familiar with personally, professionally, and living, well, we live in a society, as the kids, including myself, say. So, starting with Jocelyn, what are the most significant changes you've seen throughout your tenure as an elected official? There's been quite a lot.
Oh, goodness. I mean, I would say what I've really seen as someone who started in the late 90s, and 99 was when I graduated, doing voting rights work, is that from 2020 till now, and maybe 2016 till now, we've certainly been in an inflection point where democracy has been more at the forefront, more under sort of extraordinary challenges than ever before. The change I've actually seen, both in Michigan and nationwide, is also that a lot more people care about our democracy. There are a lot more people fight and want to fight for our democracy, for our voices to be heard and for our votes to count. And it's been incredibly inspiring because after the 2000 election, there was frustration, there was attention on elections and election administration, but not to the intensity there is now. And certainly we're undergoing great challenges in this moment, but we've also in Michigan and elsewhere seen our democracy grow. More people are voting in Michigan than ever before in our state's history. We've expanded the ability for people to vote because citizens led initiatives to do that. So I always wondered in 1965 when people were marching and fighting for the Voting Rights Act, where is that energy now? And one of the most significant changes I've seen is a growth of that energy, a recognition that if we don't work to preserve our democracy, it could wither on the vine. And we're of course reminded that in this immediate moment almost daily, but certainly what I've seen grow from those challenges is a broader strength and determination and devotion among American citizens towards our democracy that I hope will continue to guide us through this moment.
Absolutely, and I also, as you all heard from Sarah Jane, I work in the voting rights space as well, and I follow everything in Michigan because what an extraordinary example for the rest of our country. And getting young people in particular, we talk to young black and brown voters, and we're trying to get us to understand, like, democracy is living and breathing, and we all play a role in protecting and strengthening it. It's so fragile, and we really all have to show up every single year. Every year's an election year. Local elections are happening. Election day is in 10 days. But yeah, so thank you so much for that. I want to move to Karen. How, similarly, is life different for journalists right now than 5 or 10 or 20 years ago?
Oh my God. Well, for one thing, when I started out, we actually used typewriters. And many of us still have them out of sentimentality. Some people actually use them, but I mean, that's an example. When I was in publishing and then print journalism and then broadcast journalism, and I often laugh when everybody says, why are the magazines so thin? Why is there no, it's like because, many years ago, a lot of people read them, a lot of people subscribed to them on the regular, and there was money to do things. When I first started out in publishing, if you worked past a certain hour, they're like, oh, you don't take the subway home. We have a car for you. They'd bring dinner in for you. The Mucks flew first class just sort of because. And I think that spending in that way, while often in pursuit of a fabulous story, also had consequences. And, the shrinking of the media pie and the fact that a lot of these places bought each other up and then had redundancies and had to knock people off. And the fact that people in general, I mean, in my family, we read a couple of newspapers a day. Everybody hung out to watch Walter Cronkite at 6:15 or whenever it was back then. And that was a sacred established time. And you were considered a good citizen if you knew what was going on in the world. I have a 34-year-old, and when he calls me about a story, it's, where did you read that? He goes, I read it on Reddit. It's like, that's not the same thing, but this is where we are now. So that's kind of how it changed, and we have learned that we're going to have to meet people where they are. So, okay, then put real news on Reddit, and there's ways to do it, but we have to want to do it, and we have to be consistent in doing it. And we can't assume that just because we think people should be consuming news that way, that that's how they're going to consume news, because they have lives. So for me, it's changed a lot because everything has become very downsized. And the other thing that's happened is the news cycle has quickened and intensified. You know, there used to be news at specific times of day. Now you get news wherever you want. It's a faucet. It's a fire hose sometimes. You know, you just turn it on, there it is. And so the ability to distinguish between what you really need to know at any given time and what's being thrown at you is a very different thing from when I first started.
24/7 now. I mean, the news cycle is 24/7. We all carry around
Literally.
these computers in our pockets that
Yep.
bling, bling, bling. I think mine has vibrated 5 times since I've sat up here, and
Yeah.
we're just inundated with news. And technology is not inherently evil, right? I'm a Gen Zer through and through. Who else is in Gen Z in here? Are we? Okay, perfect.
A few young people.
Like, I thought we would make some noise about that. But no, I love social media. I really do. I work in it every single day, but it certainly poses its challenges, and more so these days with AI.
Yeah.
Terrifying to me.
Yeah.
I was a social science major at Wellesley, like the furthest thing from what I thought, like understanding science and math and STEM was like a scary word to me. Wellesley made me more comfortable and familiar with it, but post-grad, seeing the rise of AI, the impacts of AI in so many different fields, I do want to follow up with you and ask, how do you see the impact of AI in journalism and news reporting?
There's a lot of unreal stuff that's floating around up there, although there's also useful stuff. Like it used to be if I went out and did an hour-long interview, I'd have to come back and spend 2 hours, 3 hours transcribing it. Now AI gives you the general outline of what was said, when it was said in the transcript. You can go back to it and check and make sure. You always have to check, but at least you're not doing scut work when you could be advancing what you're trying to do. So there are positive aspects of using it, but we're seeing a lot of the unfortunate aspects that make everybody want to sort of pull away. So we're going to have to be better about that.
Across all fields in particular. And Sue, going over to you, I mean, how do you anticipate AI changing the corporate world? What changes have you seen so far?
So first of all, I mean, AI is actually not new. I had friends at MIT who were working on AI when I was here, and that was a really long time ago. So companies have been using it for many years. The thing that's new is Gen AI, which is overgeneralized, very high level, but you know, I think of as massive models trained on massive data sets, which are enabled by expanded compute capacity, delivering pattern recognition on steroids. You know, that's sort of what it is. And we're probably right now in a bit of a hype cycle, but everyone, literally everyone that I talk to in business is thinking about what AI can do in their business. Some of them are thinking about it as process automation or, you know, efficiency. And that, I mean, there's a place for that, but I think that's going to be a relatively small aspect of what AI ultimately evolves to. I think, you know, how AI or AI agents can augment our work by serving in effect as a junior employee or a collaborator, I think is somewhat the direction of travel. I was in meetings in Singapore a couple of weeks ago, and some people were wondering, what does this mean for entry-level employees? Like, what does it mean when you don't need them anymore? And my argument is, you are always going to need entry-level employees, because how are you going to have mid-level and senior level unless you bring people in and you train them? But what it probably does mean is that the job descriptions are going to change. The core competencies are going to change. You are going to expect people to come in and know how to think about working with AI and using it to make themselves more effective and enable them to sort of bring the human element and bring more value added. So I do think that's what's happening. I saw an interview last week with actually a friend who is a chief marketing officer of a large consumer products company in the United States, and he said that he thought the current technological revolution would lead to the revenge of the English majors. What I think he meant by that was that LLM output is sensitive to the quality of the input, meaning the prompts. So, you know, I do think people will be able to do more effective vibe coding, will be able to use it in more effective ways. Even a decade ago, Mark Cuban predicted that with the rise of AI, some jobs like software programming were going to go away or be much, much less needed because a lot of those tasks could be automated. And that expertise, this is what he said, expertise in subjects like English and philosophy and skills like communication and critical thinking would become more important. In other words, this should be a really exciting moment for humanities, for liberal arts, and for Wellesley.
Absolutely applause to that. Absolutely. Thank you all so much. I mean, yeah, AI is, again, scary, but we know that there are benefits, just like a lot of things, pros and cons to a lot of things. And so thinking about other challenges that we currently face as a country, as a nation, and as a world, we are so divided at times right now. I don't want to make that a full generalization because there are moments like this that feel so community-driven, and that happens across the country every day. But in times of division in our country and our world, how are you all finding ways to work with people who have very different core beliefs? And I mean political, moral, ethical, core beliefs than you. And what strategies can emerging leaders like myself and others in the room, how can we use those strategies to communicate across differences and drive real change in any order?
I'll start. I mean, look, I just think that a saying I'm very fond of is God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, so listen a lot more than you talk. I think that it's useful to try to see issues through someone else's eyes. So that you understand where they're coming from, look for points of commonality, maybe ideas that you are expressing differently but actually are not so different at their core, and maybe you can work from there. The more you understand about all the factors at play, the more likely you are to be able to bridge differences and affect change.
I'll add another quote to that. I love that. Abraham Lincoln said, "I do not like that man, therefore I must get to know him better." Yeah. And I think of that often in my head whenever I don't like someone. Okay, I'll get to know them better. But what I've also seen...
It's been so nice getting to know you better, Jocelyn.
Thank you. What I've also seen, though, in Michigan, leading statewide, you know, my job is to make sure, among other things, I oversee our elections, but I also oversee the DMV, so it makes me very popular. But what I've been able to do is eliminate wait times and put self-service stations in grocery stores, and you know, no matter who someone votes for or what their core belief may be on a particular thing, we all want our government to work well for us. We all want to be able to show up and get our license and for things to work the way that we expect them to work. And beyond that, what I've seen is that we really all want our loved ones to be happy and healthy and safe and close by. And so I try to focus on those unifying principles that we all feel. The love, the need to be loved, desire to be safe, for our loved ones to be safe, happy, healthy, and how we can coalesce around ideas to get there for all, recognizing again that there's far more than that truly that bring us together than divides us.
Absolutely. Karen, do you want to add anything?
I'm probably more cynical than you guys.
And that's
It's
okay.
probably my profession, and so that's part of it. But I have found that I have talked to many people that I would not have considered like sitting next to at dinner. It wouldn't have been my choice. But as we keep talking, as I keep asking questions and they keep answering, and lots of times they'll preface it with, well, you're not going to agree with this, but. It's like, well, you don't know whether I'm going to agree with it because you haven't said it yet. So spit it out and then let's get to it. That I found a number of people who would vote very differently from me, who have, in some ways, as you all were saying, similar basic human goals and conditions. You know, I remember a guy telling me, well, my grandma raised me because my mother couldn't. And I'm an old white guy, but I grew up in a neighborhood where there were not a lot of white people. She never took welfare. She worked 4 jobs. She did whatever. And I said, what made you think everybody around you didn't have similar situations? And he sort of stopped and he said, I don't know, I just knew how it was in our house. And I said, well, this is why we talk to each other. I would have disagreed with him on welfare policy in terms of who the deserving poor are, on innate advantages that you might have even if you're poor because you're not from the demographic that we're talking about. But we were able to have a reasonable conversation about that. You can't do that person by person by person. Obviously, I don't have the patience. I don't like people that much. But also, everybody's different. But I think the willingness to have people feel as if you hear them and see them, even if you don't agree with them, and you might both walk away feeling like, that poor girl, she's never gonna, okay, I won't, and we won't, but we're not thinking the other person is evil. And at this point, I think that's a good first step, because that's where we are.
Definitely. And yeah, it really, what I'm hearing from all of you is it's all about building connection. It's all about building community. And we do that really well here at Wellesley. That's why we're all here. And so that's good. And on that theme of building connections, how many of us in the room know who Shirley Chisholm is? Woo, right? Definitely. Wow. Oh my goodness. Okay, we have some connections in the room. Perfect. So Shirley Chisholm once said, to bring in another quote, is one of my favorites, a really popular one. I'm not unique in this, but if they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair. Exactly. With those words, she encouraged women, particularly women of color, not to wait for an invitation, but to make your own space in the conversation. And that's what they teach us here at Wellesley. So I would love to know, since we all went here, can you tell us about a time when you had to bring your own chair to the decision-making table?
It wasn't a chair, it was a candy bowl. Seriously, I worked in a newsroom full of guys who were very dismissive, thought themselves enlightened. It's like, okay, whatever, you know how to write MS, but you're still denigrating all the other women that are working with you here. They didn't see it that way. And literally, at one point, I think I asked one too many questions, and they moved me to another side of the newsroom and said, well, we need this space for production. That's why we're putting you here. No, they're putting me there because I was a big pain in their anatomy. But knowing reporters as I do and editorial people, we'll eat anything. And so I established a candy bowl at my desk, and Lord and behold, these craven little individuals would come by, take a chunk of, take a little pack of M&Ms or a chunk of whatever, and sit around and give me all the information I wanted to know, unsolicited, for the price of candy. So sometimes it isn't quite that overt.
You heard it here first. Talk about strategies.
It was worth every penny.
There's so many. I think when I was dean of a law school, I was a young 35-year-old woman running a law school and oftentimes left out of important conversations, even though I was dean. When I worked as a journalist in investigating hate crimes in the Deep South, there were a lot of times in which this young 20-year-old recent Wellesley graduate was not welcome into the room at editorial board decisions, and I just came in and just didn't, Wellesley teaches you to just bring that folding chair wherever you go. But as you were saying that, I was actually thinking about my role as a Secretary of State in 2020. I mean, Secretaries of State are often meant to just be ministerial in the background and letting, everyone else politic. And so much about 2020 was grabbing the microphone and saying, no, I'm going to tell you our elections were secure. Even though it meant, screaming through all of the cacophony and noises. We had data, truth, the law, the Constitution, and the will of the people on our side, and yet it was still, you had to, especially in a noisy narrative, like we often have, noisy messaging environment, you have to grab the mic, and then you have to, in doing so, then you see other people start to grab the mic and bring up their folding chair and sit at the table and say, let me tell you what it is. And so motivated by truth and a desire to protect the law and enforce the law, that propelled me forward, but it was certainly unexpected, and it's something I still hear about. Usually we don't know our Secretary of State, but we know this one. And it's because I grab the mic and tell it like it is, and I don't let other people silence me to further their own political agendas.
So I don't actually really. I was a founding partner of a company, and so that sort of came with a built-in seat at the table, or at least a cushion on the couch.
Pro tip.
Yeah, exactly. I will say that, so I focused a lot on making sure there was room at the table for others, and that we were both developing others and creating the community for my focus, other women, and encouraging them to say yes when there was an opportunity offered to them. So maybe it's not a decision-making table, but obviously there's also the process of gaining the confidence to express your opinion, even though you have the seat at the table. So I do remember the first time I told my boss that his idea was really stupid, in exactly those words, with an expletive thrown in, and it was extremely liberating.
Another strategy. No, I'm glad you said that, maybe not the last part, but the second to last part, about expanding the table. So let's all pretend we're in an English lit seminar, okay? And we're gonna expand and build on the metaphor. If we all bring our own chair to the same table, it might start to get a little crowded. Maybe, right? There's a little less space for others. Go with me. So instead, how can we actually expand the table or build more tables and more chairs? And how do you go about building connections in and out of your work and in your fields and make room for others as a leader?
So since I brought it up, I guess I'll follow up on that. Look, I don't really worry about there being enough room at the table. I think there's still ample opportunity to welcome others in, to mentor and coach and sponsor and advocate for others, and to direct opportunity their way and to encourage them, as I just said, to grasp it when offered. I know we all know the Madeleine Albright quote, right? There's a special place in hell for women who don't help each other. But actually there was a line after that, which I find even more inspiring, which is, in a society where people so often tear each other down, our saving grace lies in our willingness to lift one another up. And I try to always remember that.
When I was dean, I talk about this, I write about this in my book. I really struggled on a lot of fronts. And I actually talk about how, though, at Wellesley, we had been taught to overcome so many things. When I was dealing with very real misogyny and sexual harassment at the university where I was dean, I was unequipped to really know how to respond, and then I felt guilt about not knowing what to do. And I sought out a woman, a business leader, who gave me this incredible advice on how to find your way through those difficult times where the path isn't clear. And she said, think of all of the women who've come before you who have had to navigate those similar trials, reach out to them and learn from them, and then think about all of the women who have less of a voice, less power, less authority than you, and how they're struggling with the same things. Help them. And by doing both of those things, you find your own way through. That the pathway through challenge is through service and through helping others. And so for me, the table analogy is about saying, like, who else, where are the other tables that we're not even seeing? And what can we learn from them? Those tables that were in old rooms that we no longer see, what can we learn? And then where are those who are going to be trying to be at tables in the future? How can we reach out to them now? And if you put your energy there, then you find your own way to a table and find your own voice in the midst of it.
I'd say one of the quickest ways to make the table larger is through mentorship, which I know we have done very well here at Wellesley, because some people have mentored me, and I've mentored some people who've come behind me, and it enlarges the ability of the whole group to be able to do what's needed to be done. But also, those mentees are kind of like, you're the Johnny Appleseed of possibilities, that you're helping to prepare people or cracking open a door for them so they can go out, expand their expertise, and help somebody else. And so it may not be a physical table. We may not have enough of a table to stretch back and stick, 16 extra leaves in it. Somebody has a table like that somewhere. But it builds community, and it expands our ability to serve. And I think that's important.
100%, 100%. So I could not agree more on the mentorship front. You all mentioned it. I've been privileged to be mentored by a number of people in this room, including President Johnson and Dean Horton and others on the Board of Trustees. And the three of you are all such shining examples as well of mentorship and support and supporting women, to the quote that you brought up. And that has kept me going through Wellesley as a first-gen low-income student, who I was like, what do you mean school? Like, what do you mean college? I know I've always wanted to go, but I don't have like a structure for this. I don't know what to do. And being at Wellesley, specifically in this support network that we all offer here, is the only way I got through it and out of it, and now in the world trying to do it for others as well. So thank you all in this room for that shining example, truly. So that's what kept me going, and I want to know, as we kind of conclude this panel, which I never want to end, in this ever-changing and challenging time, what keeps you all going? What fuels you?
Rage.
I'm serious.
That'll do it. That's it. Yeah. What else?
I mean,
You're like, that's that.
So I'm a mom of a 9-year-old little boy. And, everything we do over the next decade is going to define his childhood, and it's going to define his future. It's going to define leadership for him. It's going to define norms for him and his friends. And so I feel a deep responsibility to make sure we do everything we can in this moment to, as I said yesterday, recognize not just the eyes of those who've come before us are on us now, but the eyes of the young men and women, boys and girls who will inherit what we leave behind. Their eyes are on us now too, to say, what are you going to do? And my son literally reminds me of that all the time when I have hard days and I come home and I just think, oh, I just want to be a teacher or do other work or, write or, and he goes, Mom, if you give up, what's going to happen to me? And he said that literally to me once. And I was like, okay, going to keep going. And so it's perseverance, resilience, as we were talking about earlier, that rage and that anger, but also a deep desire and recognition that I'm here because of those who come before me, because they didn't give up. They didn't stop fighting. They marched and they fought and they bled so that we could live in a world where every voice was heard, where we have a democracy, where we have educational institutions like this one that touch and grow and flourish, help people flourish all across our nation and world. And so it's really just on us to say, what are you going to do now to honor what they did and to leave something behind for our future? And that is what keeps me going.
sure I really want to come after that. I thank you for that. It's amazing. Honestly, I just think that I am insatiably curious about what's happening in the world, about places in the world. I mean, I think, so for me, I mean, it's just that constant curiosity to want to learn more, to want to meet more people, to go more places, and to keep my brain active. And I think that, not only leads to a richer life for me, but enables me to add more value, ask better questions, and contribute in a better way.
That's beautiful. Thank you. And so for our closing question, very on theme, on brand, if you will. What do you hope for the next 150 years of Wellesley?
Growth and prosperity and this beautiful campus to continue to both preserve what makes it beautiful and continue to enhance what can lead the next generation of women to break barriers and change the world. I mean, what an honor it is to be a part of this history, to be a part of the women who've passed through these halls, and to think about all who will pass through the halls in the 150 years to come and what they're going to accomplish. So my hope is that Wellesley, that we all continue to give back, to invest, to help Wellesley stay and grow, even in attacks on higher education or at a zenith in this moment. So I think, just continued growth, prosperity, and safety and community, all the things that made us who we are, that will continue to help be accessible to others who will hopefully follow in the path we leave behind.
Cheers to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all going to say similar things, right? At the highest level, I really hope that Wellesley continues to provide an excellent education for women who will make a difference. At a tactical level, I hope that we are willing to evolve and transform our educational model to make sure we remain relevant, not only relevant, but truly excellent in preparing our students for the world as it changes.
I hope it's still here in 150 years. Seriously. And beyond that. And I think it will be, but as Jocelyn said, there are challenges. And I hope we're able to meet the challenge, to push back, to remain strong, and continue to love this place that loved us when we were here.
And we will. And we will. Thank you so much to you all. Absolutely a round of applause